In today's video podcast at the Flashpoint Now, we are joined by Priya Rau, who is the Vice President of Enterprise Applications at Sagility, a healthcare-focused consulting and business process transformation company. Priya's expertise spans a wide range of enterprise applications, digital transformation, mobility, user experience, medical devices, the list goes on. She's a champion for AI-led innovation across operations, workforce engagement, and enterprise applications, which makes it perfect for us to discuss the what and how of AI in enterprises today. Welcome to the podcast, Priya, and thank you for giving us your time.
Thanks, Kailash. It's a pleasure to be here.
Priya, you work in enterprise-led business transformation and you're an AI champion. I assume this gives you a vantage point to talk about what has materially changed in the AI tsunami. I would love to hear your observations on this and also where you think enterprises are still skeptical. In other words, what's the observable reality and where is the hype when it comes to enterprise AI? All yours, Priya.
So if I had to look at how I started my career, right, so many years back, what we built as part of transformation or digital transformation was basically like building roads, right? You would connect multiple systems, you would connect multiple components, users could freely flow through these, and the data could freely flow through these components. So that's exactly what we built, right? And it was stable, it was adopted, everything's fine. Now, if the user wanted to go from one city to another, he could use the road, but he couldn't, if he had to make a turn, he would actually have to open up the map and make a decision as to which turn to take. So the decision was still in with the user, right? It was in his mind. Today, what I think has changed with technology, with AI coming in, is it's more like a GPS system. It is not about, the roads being built. That's perfect. But it's about where does the user have to go and what does he need to be guided about to get there. Now, when you build something like that, it's no longer about the ease of, it's about sometimes not hitting that traffic ridden road. So it reroutes you even before the road, the user has gotten to that place. That means that the user has actually to trust the system, the skepticism that you were asking about, right? Like the user has to actually trust the system. So we have to build solutions that they feel comfortable trusting. It will not take me into a ditch. So that is where transformation is moving today. And we have to be cognizant of that and build solution which is no longer just an enabler, right? It is a participant in the entire play. And that means there is more onus, there's more onus on us in terms of building the right solution for the user.
So great analogy there. One too many videos of cars driving into lakes.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't know if you can draw parallels to AI hallucinations being taken at face value by users.
Absolutely. Yeah. That is the part that we have to consciously build for, right? To be careful that we don't assume the trust. We actually engineer towards it.
Let's go a bit upstream from AI. What is your take on data science? I'm asking because this is something that not all enterprises had warmed up to, even as AI became mainstream conversation. In fact, early conversations on enterprise AI, say 3 odd years back, would often bring up how the data layer needs to be first architected and that not enough was done. Do you think that is still the case? I don't know, now with everyone pressured into at least pilot deployments of AI, but not necessarily with strong foundations. What's your take on this?
See, the real value about data science isn't about having dashboards. That is essentially a post-mortem dashboard. It's actually about predicting, and it is about fitment that data science can bring the real value to. So let me take an example, right? I have a great recruiter who hires for me. All my team's hiring is done by that recruiter. And he has a checklist. I have a new architect requirement. He's gone through, met a lot of candidates. He has met 4 or 5 candidates who are great. And the top candidate has all the check boxes checked. And on paper, he looks perfect. But something about that recruiter's gut feel is saying, hey, this guy won't fit in well. So he's probably comparing that candidate to, say, a Raghu in my team and saying that, hey, you know what is perfect, but something about Raghu is different from the way this guy interacts with me. Today, it's a gut feel, right? If I extrapolate it, it's probably that people in my team need a growth mindset. And if they don't have it, they struggle to stay in my team. And the recruiter understands it, but he can't pinpoint it. Tomorrow, systems are going to be built with that science already. So Priya needs growth mindset. Somebody else doesn't need growth mindset. Doesn't mean that the system is even built for an average user. It doesn't take the average of the two and design the system. It designs what is important for me and hires for me. It hires the right candidate for my peer who has a different outlook towards execution. So that is where data science brings real value, right? You're not designing for the average one. And it is also grounded in real science, no longer in instinct. So we should stop looking at data science as a reporting function. It's no longer an afterthought, right? It has to go internal to the design of the solution itself, internal to the design of the product that we build itself. And that is where it brings real value.
Now, extending this bit, Priya, do you think there is the risk of technology for the sake of technology with AI? We realize that this can happen with any other technology as well, but it seems far more immediate, direct, impactful, second and third order effects in the case of AI. Firstly, would you agree? And if so, what is your advice for keeping AI human relevant from an employee perspective as well as the customer?
Okay. Human-centric as we build technology, right? And then I'll come to the technology for the technology's sake part of the answer. In my previous role, I set up a design practice for my company. And during that time, I wanted to, build towards, we were building a calibration application, right? So we built that application, we took it to, in my previous role, I was building a design practice for my organization. And during that time, I read a plethora of books around design. And one of the books that I read was called Design of Everyday Things by Don Norman. And it talks about two eras of machine design. So the first one was, the first era was where we had to understand the machine. It came with a manual, we would have to understand it, we would have to bend to make it work, and it was limited, right? Then came the second era, where good design flipped that work. So the design or the machine had to understand us, right? It had to understand humans, it had to work intuitively, very well, enable the user to do whatever he had to do. In my opinion, the third era has also arrived, wherein now machine doesn't just do what it is asked to do. It fetches the right information, connects it with the right kind of models. It tells the user what is their next best move. So the machine actually brings you the answer. And that is where the real value of technology, especially with AI-led innovation, is going. And if we are not working towards that, then it is not essentially adding to the right value to the organization, because the machine needs to bring you right answers. And see, honestly, many a times, even today, right? Like the idea of bringing in all of these solutions is to make repetitive tasks go away. But organizations that are investing in the largest number of models or the largest number of AI agents are not the ones that are going to succeed. Because today, with a lot of democratization, build AI agents, I have so many thousand AI agents, doesn't help. Where it helps is that the AI agent is sitting in that everyday workflow, which is valuable to the organization. So that is where we need to make technology work. And that is where it is most useful for the user who's using it.
Priya, moving to rather controversial bit around AI, how do you see the role for regulations for AI use? Who should draw the line and where should it be drawn? Rather, to begin with, should someone draw the line at all? When the technologies, use cases are all still evolving.
Yeah. So I come from a medical devices background. I used to build software for medical devices. Then I worked for several such companies. Then in my earlier role for digital transformation as well, I was working with a large pharma company. So I'll tell you a story from my experience, right? There was once when we built one application. It worked perfectly well. It worked in all scenarios. We thought it was ready to be shipped, but it was not, because it was perfectly behaving well in edge scenarios as well. But some of those edge scenarios, we were not able to prove why was it behaving the way it was behaving. In another case, it was like, where is the requirement to make this behave like this, right? So that mapping was not there. Now in regulated industries, these things matter, right? So even though it was okay, we could not ship the product. We need to know and we need to prove that it is working and it will continue to work the way it is working. And why is it working the way it is working? All of those are important. Now, that is one part of it that I do as a takeaway. Second thing is that early in my career, I used to look at quality and validation and governance as brakes. Now I look at them as something like a seatbelt. As you continue to scale, you need to be safe enough to go at a good speed. So we need to have that layer which is ensured so that we can build the trust with the user. And if I have to look at one more thing, right, like validation is never a one-time event, right? It is an ongoing activity, right? You have to keep doing, especially today with user behavior changing, different data models, the model drifts, etc. You cannot assume that what is working today will work the same way tomorrow. So you have to build on that. Now, all of these things are very important in my perspective, and that's what I bring from my regulated environment background. That trust is not something that you can assume, that it is something that you have to continuously build with the user. So I would say it's very important, an aspect.
Priya, before we come to the end of this video, for the last question, if you were a leadership advisor, not necessarily at Sagility, but say for the purposes of this question, independent, what would your advice be to business leaders about AI? What should they personally focus on? Is it AI literacy, mandating their -1s and -2s to be AI fluent, governance, personally overseeing AI pilots, change management, or something else altogether?
Okay. With respect to this answer, right, I want to start with an example, right? Earlier, I had two teams that had to build the same AI solution. So we had like a hackathon, we wanted teams to build and, towards a solution. Now, one team was at a technology advantage, right? They knew the right technology, they had worked on something similar. They were more technology fluent. Then there was another team that was more modest and less technology, aware, I would say. And they went about building this solution, which was great and all that. What I noticed at the end was the team that was good at technology built a solution that almost nobody used. Whereas the team that was less technology fluent actually built a solution that they took it out to users before it was completely ready, right? They had the modesty to accept that they didn't know what they didn't know. But one of the things that they kept as a goalpost was what was the outcome they wanted to achieve, and that it would need inputs. So from that experience, I now clearly know that first thing is, it is very important that to understand that today all the things that we talk about, AI literacy, data fluency, UX, governance, change management, all of those today have become table stakes, right? Like it is, and many things AI itself can help you with. Many times I see people going to AI and asking what are the compliance governance controls I have to have for this to be. So it's the other way around. I think there are two qualities that are extremely important. One is knowing your business outcome, because it needs to be the North Star, right? And you need to know today, with AI being able to build anything that you want to build, what is it that is important to be built? What is it that is going to be made better? And the leader's job now is to choose, not do a lot of things for the sake of technology. The second thing that is really important is the risk appetite. Having the capability to go out there, call out what we know, what we don't know, have a dialogue, reach towards an end goal that works, right, is important. Because if somebody is waiting for a completely de-risked plan to come out before they start something, it's not happening. They'll be left behind, right? That risk appetite has to be built. So if I have to look at two clear, important aspects for a person taking on AI journey, it is the clarity of thought, and the second would be the courage to go forward, right? Yeah.
A great summation at the end goal in mind, clarity of thought, and knowing that it could fail and have the courage to still go ahead and see what you could make of it. Thank you, Priya, for your insights and your time. It's always interesting to hear from an insider how things are changing and what's in store with cutting edge technology. I hope to have you on our podcast soon for another discussion to dig a little deeper into AI, transformation, data, change management, and the like. Thank you once again for agreeing to speak with us.
Thanks, Kailash. It was a pleasure talking to you.